Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. As always, first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for spending part of your time with us. If you like what we do, go on down below and hit those like and subscribe buttons. They really, really help us out, and they ensure that you won't miss any of our weekly updates as we go into the summer racing season. There's a lot to be excited about moving forward, but this episode, as much as any other that we have done to this point as a show, and JD, what number show is this?
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm going to do something in the business we call pad. And it's a great day here. It's a little warm here in Arizona, and this is episode 58.
Episode 58. So we've been doing this for more than a year. This show, as much as any other, is going to be a celebration because after weeks and weeks and weeks of waiting, our friends up in Canada can celebrate. Woodbine is back on Saturday. We're pumped. We're excited. We're taking a look at the Saturday card, and we've got a great guest in here to help us do that. JD, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. She spends a lot of time on Twitter putting out a lot of really good, insightful stuff. You can follow her at @GoPhilly. Sheri Riddoch is here joining us to talk about opening day at Woodbine, and it just feels so good to say that, doesn't it?
It most certainly does. It has been a very long winter, and, it's just so great to have this to look forward to. And I know that there's much excitement in the whole industry about not only the thoroughbreds, but the standardbreds getting back on track as well. So it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where I think everyone in the industry is incredibly happy to see Woodbine back. The less said about why there was a delay, the better. Needless to say, you can go take a look at whatever site you get your thoroughbred news at to take a look at what's going on here. But the important thing is Woodbine's back. We're in a mood where we're celebrating. I've got a brand spanking new shirt with a Canadian hero on it, if you can recognize that guy right there. I know JD does. So this actually just came in the mail, by the way, earlier today. Shout out to the folks at Homage. They make really, really good stuff if you're into the graphic world. And I just love JD rolling his eyes here. Let me catch him and send him back to him.
So we're excited, obviously, to have you on, Sheri. And one of the things I want to talk about, kind of set the scene a little bit. It's what's been going on with horse racing in Canada, and some of our favorite Ontario brands. Canadian Horse of the Year, Mighty Heart, had to come down to the United States to get a little work. And obviously, Josie Carroll and some other trainers tried a little bit. Obviously, there's some programs where people go Woodbine to Gulfstream and that sort of thing. But we saw some trainers put horses in places we don't necessarily see them. Arlington Park got a good string of Woodbine runners, but Mighty Heart obviously came back, ran at Keeneland, and then ran in the Blame at Churchill Downs. And what a gutty performance from the Canadian Horse of the Year.
When I first looked at that race, I thought, wow, they put him in tough. But you know what? Josie Carroll, she spots her horses very well for the most part. And I figured that if she believed that he fit in there, then he fit, and he went off at a really good price. And in that field, I think the price was actually quite fair. And I've been waiting for him to actually race off the pace. And he did that. And to me, he did that in the Prince of Wales at 40 as well. And when he first made that debut at Keeneland, I believe, right? His first race was?
Yep.
He went gung-ho. He's a little bit rank at the beginning there. And he just he was perfect. He let the speed go this time, sat in behind them. And even though he had to kind of sit back a bit, he fought. And I was so proud of him. Honestly, I think that's the best race I've seen him run. I really believe that.
And that was a $21 plus winner for Josie Carroll. And now we'll see what's next for Mighty Heart. But the key story here is Woodbine's back. And obviously this has been a waiting game. And I know this is going to pain a little bit, but can you kind of paint the picture? I just want to paint the picture both as someone who lives in the area, but also as a horse racing fan, how it's impacted you kind of the last few months where other places in Canada and other places in the U.S., things seemingly were going more back to normal. And there's, normal's a relative term these days, but it's been a little different for you.
Well, I think too, one of the main things that you have to understand is our season got cut short last year. So the people that usually really rely on those end of the season races, like a lot of the bigger outfits ship out. So a lot of the people that raced in Ontario solely depend on those last 6 weeks to be able to fund through the winter. So that was the first tough thing for them to swallow. And then now for them to start training in February and have everything going, okay, it looks like we're going to open okay in April. And then it looks like we're going to, I mean, it was just it was disheartening because the feeling with everybody was so excited to get back in February, March, to be able to move in back onto the backstretch. And, we did really well keeping the coronavirus at bay until the variants kind of come out. And that's unfortunately when everything came to a standstill once again. And all that excitement just kind of tended to waver. And it was unfortunate because, ever since then, it has been a roller coaster. And unfortunately, it's really out of our control because it changes from week to week to day to month. And we just never really knew where anything fit anymore, right? Like we went from zones to levels so nobody really knew where anything fit. And you just had to kind of hope that, okay, will it be next week? Will it be next week? Will it be next week? And some of the outfits, I mean, they decided to stay here over the winter as opposed to travel because of the coronavirus. So it impacted a whole bunch of people in a whole bunch of different ways. And, everybody's kind of second guessing. Should we have gone to the States? Should we have done things differently? But you know what? Come Saturday, none of that is going to matter because at the end of the day, this is what we've all been waiting for. And the mood of the people that I have spoken with, from media to backstretch to trainers to owners, everybody is just so excited to finally get this ball rolling. It's the light at the end of the tunnel we've all been waiting for.
That's for darn sure. Yeah.
And with Mohawk, I mean, they got to open and then close and then open. It was a constant saga, and everyone was on pins and needles. Are they going to shut us down? Are they not going to shut us down? Are they going? So to just have that blanket through all Ontario where everybody can go, and everyone can run on full cylinders. I think the camaraderie is actually going to make it all stronger because that's not this section's going and that section's going and not this one. Everybody's actually going to be working together to make the best product that they can and have the best meat and make the most of it.
And really, we talk about, we were getting to a point where some of these barns were going to have to make some very tough decisions in terms of finding racing elsewhere. But I think we got in under the wire here, and we're happy to say 11 race program drawn for Saturday, 123 runners. I had to do the math 4 times because the average that many runners per race. I mean, we're used to lately. We've been doing the math to say there's been 55 runners at Santa Anita and that sort of thing. But to see 123 runners entered on Saturday, and we know we're waiting on overnights officially for Sunday, but seems like Sunday's going to be packed as well.
Sunday's packed. And I'm going to tell you something else that's very unique about Saturday being the opening day. You've got every surface that they're running on: inner turf, outer turf, tapeta, all the different distances. That is the most rare thing that you will ever find because usually they run the sprints for a couple weeks in April, right? 5 furlong sprints, maybe 6. There's no route races. It's just bang, the cart is going full bore. Here we go. Because the horses, don't forget, have been training since February, right? So they're ready. They they might need a race, but they're fit. So it's, this is why it's such an intriguing weekend, because normally you take a little bit of time and you just watch and kind of see horses, kind of develop their pattern. You're not going to get that. It's going to be 7 furlongs, 5 furlongs, a mile and an eighth. That I think adds a whole different element and excitement to it.
It does for sure. I mean, one of the things that I hesitate and struggle with, usually the first couple of weeks of Woodbine every year, is okay, what horses are ready, what horses need a race, and diagnosing trainer intent from there. However, you look at the ways in which different barns have navigated through the pandemic. Some of these horses ran at Gulfstream, some have run at Churchill, some have run at Keeneland, some have run at the New York tracks. Yes, you're getting some layoff lines, but you're also getting some horses that have some seasoning over the past winter and spring. It's a little bit different than most opening days at Woodbine, and that's certainly something to take into account. I'm glad you brought that up, Sheri.
Yeah, 100%. And there's some horses for courses too.
Yep, that's for sure.
Especially opening day.
And the other amazing part is this jockey colony has pretty much been able to stay intact, even though some of them went off to faraway lands.
Yeah,
We're wondering if they could come back.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? And a lot of them didn't ride as much as they usually do over the winter as well. So it is going to be interesting to kind of see how things transpire. And don't forget, we've got the under the hand or under the shoulder whip rules as well, as where some of them might not have had to. So they're going to have to adjust to that too. And there's going to be a whole bunch of different things that are going to kind of come into play. So.
Yeah, a lot of different variables as you handicap that opening day program. 11 races, 123 horses, and we are going to dive in to the late pick 4 on Saturday. This one starts in race number 8, so 8, 9, 10, 11. If you're handicapping along with us, grab your past performances and let's get to work. This is going to feel really good here. Race number 8 on the opening day program at Woodbine is, as JD mentioned, a $123,000 and some change maiden special weight event, older fillies and mares going 1 mile on the turf course. We've got a pretty big field. We also, however, have a pretty big morning line favorite in the form of number 5, Speightstown Shirl. 3 starts and 3 seconds for this daughter of, you guessed it, Speightstown, trained by Hall of Famer Roger Atfield. Now, JD, who do you want to lead us off here? Because we've got a couple of different approaches.
Andrew, why don't you take the lead here?
Okay, I'm going to go pretty simply here. In Roger Atfield and Mark Casse, I trust. Sheri, that's usually a good handicapping angle when all else fails at Woodbine, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I can totally understand why you would go that way, because it seems to be the safest route, right?
Now, the one thing I will say is, this is what gives me some pause about Speightstown Shirl, who I am using on a caveman style ticket that we'll give out here. But if you're constructing an A-B style ticket, a grid where you lean on your stronger opinions, this is why I would consider Speightstown Shirl a B. Because if Speightstown Shirl was this well meant, why is Roger Atfield also saddling Confident, who was 4th beaten 2.5 lengths in a rich race at Churchill last time out? Again, trainer intent. It's food for thought here on opening day. And Mark Casse has 2 first-time starters that are both training very well in the mornings and I think are worth inclusion. I see Lady Moonshine, a daughter of Milwaukee Brew out of a Giants Causeway mare. I see a 47-3 work. I see a 59-3 work. I see Kimura up for Casse, and I see 10-1 on the morning line. Okay, yeah, I can't let that horse beat me. 2, 4, 5, and 8 for me. And in my opinion, it's as simple as in Casse and Atfield, I trust they combined to saddle 4 horses in here. And one thing I will say in that scenario is, if one of those horses winds up scratching on the morning of the race or re-entered or what have you, the other one's probably gonna win.
Well, and that's where you got to watch the board as well, right?
Yep, darn sure.
And again, it's opening day and we don't really know what the board is going to tell us, but they tend to first-time starters. You'll have a good indication of what's live.
Yep, that's for darn sure. Where are we going next, JD?
I would love to hear Sheri's perspective on this race.
Oh, I like this perspective.
I know. I did not use the 2, but I really do like. I like the other Atfield myself, because I have a feeling that with Speightstown Shirl, I'm wondering if maybe she's just a little bit deflated, having run 3 seconds in a row. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying she's not good. I do think she's good, and I've watched all of her races. And she has had a little bit of trouble, and things kind of just just haven't panned out quite for her. So I don't know if she's the horse that needs the actual perfect trip to get it done, or if, you know, maybe our turf course is going to suit her a little bit better, because they're going on the outer turf. So it's a one turn. So maybe that he figures that this will be a better course for her. But when I saw the other outfield in there, I thought, okay, well, you know what? This one is improving. I think that is really going to love this turf course. And at 8-1 to me provides huge value, huge value. And if Speightstown Shirl ends up going to the lead or taking the lead and gets challenged, then I think he's got the number 8 to come in and pick up the pieces. So I think he's kind of playing both hands, like, okay, well, you know, just in case this one goes out, well, then I've got this one to kind of sneak up in behind. And now, don't get me wrong, I really do think that Speightstown Shirl is very talented and she could easily roll. But I'm just not all that confident just yet to actually single her. And I do think a lot of people will single her, just given the performances that she has had. So to me, I think I will use her as a safety net, but I do think that she can be beaten in here. And Astrological to me is I'm very curious about. She is a half to Dixie Moon. So I don't know if you guys are of Dixie Moon. So she won the Oaks actually 3 years ago today.
Won a lot of money, yeah.
She won a lot of money. 1 mile on turf. She beat the boys to get in her to punch her Breeders' Cup ticket. And this is out of Malibu Moon, Astrological. So he can sprint. He's going to show speed. She's going to show speed right off the hop. So I think that maybe might set the trip right in behind Speightstown Shirl too. I think that horse is very dangerous, right? Like first out.
Yeah. So one thing really quickly before we move on to JD's ticket and the Twilight Zone music starts playing, remember, 20-cent minimum wagers for this.
Yeah, very important. If you want to go deep, if you want to really go deep and take some chances in here, this is a great race for it.
Go deep and take chances.
Yes, that sounds like JD, go crazy.
All right. If you're in the first 6 stalls here, we're just going to ignore you here. We're going 7, 8, 9, 11, 13. And the 15 is actually also eligible, Suspicious Minds. So it's 6 horses with an asterisk there. And really what I'm looking at from this race, I'm looking at what we know. And what we know is, I think, out of the horses that have run, the 7, 9, and the 11 are all going to want the lead. And when we have 3 incredibly fast runners like that on the outside with some first-time starters drawn inside, I'm worried about the trip factor for those horses. And I'm playing against them just based on that I think they're basically, in this case, they're basically essentially like a first-time starter drawing the 1 hole. I'm not a huge fan of that. And I'm taking a chance here because I also I'm not feeling Speightstown Shirl. I've been in a situation with Speightstown Shirl where I've singled this horse on tickets so far in the career, and I should not hold against the horse, but it's just been a flat finish. And those are three races going back to the debut at Wood last year that horse should have won given the class, the pedigree, everything that this horse has going for it, and just seems to hang in the lane. And I'm trying to avoid hangers so that Andrew Champagne does not have to give out his props and everything that we love on this show. So
I have a trunk right off here.
So there is a first-time starter that interests me drawn to the outside, and that's the 13 English Shirl. Now, this is a very interesting Keeneland purchase. This was a Hollendorfer bred horse that only went for $33,000, but is really well-bred by English Channel out of the Heat Seeker mare Magnificent Shirl. This one is screaming first-time victory and is going to have no problem getting out, not going to be left at the gate. I mean, this is going to be a horse that's bred to be quick, and we haven't seen it from the works, but also you look at Kevin Attard. There's always some sneaky works when it comes to anybody in the Attard family. So I'm not necessarily taking those that this horse is devoid of speed, because there's some interesting works over what is a very long work tab. A lot of these horses are going to have very long work tabs. None of them are going to have an English Shirl style work tab, which I believe is 30. I think it's 32 works. There's some very quick ones early on, and then there's a lot of fitness. And I'm really liking English Shirl as a long shot. It's 12-1. First time Lasix going to start with blinkers from the outside. And then the 15 Suspicious Minds is interesting. Just ran a close second in a really competitive race at Gulfstream Park. It was at the Maiden Claydon 25 level back in March. Moves from Christophe Clement to Greg Cox. Emma Jane Wilson is listed as the mount, but obviously Emma Jane is also listed on another horse in the field, which is the 4 Astrological. Go ahead.
So I'm just going to throw this out there. So you're telling me that the owners decided, with regard to Christophe Clement, that they couldn't go on together with Suspicious Minds?
Oh,
little Elvis Presley there for you. Thank you. Right off the top of my noggin.
Oh my goodness.
So we'll see if the 15 draws into the field. I mean,
just a total no sell from him.
Yeah, of course, you're not going to get that, but that's as strong a finish as you're going to see in this field, and a very interesting horse. If Suspicious Minds can draw in, obviously a 4-year-old filly. There's some 3-year-olds in this race, but should be an incredibly hard-fought race, and I'm going 60.
One thing I'm going to say too is we have had amazing weather, so the turf course should be in tip-top shape.
Good.
Like, yeah,
both turf courses.
Both of them, yeah. But the inner and the outer are two different, right? Yeah. The inner's set up for better drainage, where the outer's got a little bit thicker grass. So they should be immaculate. Cool. So that's something that's very, very important, I think. And the only thing, I love your picks, JD, but you got to watch out on those outside posts, I think, going a mile.
Yeah.
on that big, they're going to need to find position. That's the only thing that frightens me about that horse. Because I looked at it, but going 13, first time starter.
Bred for speed, and the other ones on the outside are like 7, 9, 11. Those are all going to be going out to the front.
100%.
They're going to go.
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to be a lot of fun looking at this race. And you know what? If we're knocked out, we can play a 20-cent late pick 3.
Correct.
20 cents race exotics wagers. You really can't find a better deal if you're playing a budget conscious strategy to where maybe, we've only got $20 to spend on this sequence. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you a ticket that you can play for under that $20 limit. So there's a lot of different ways you can use that to your advantage. As we move to race number 9, and as we've mentioned, 2 turf courses. We'll be going from the outer turf to the inner turf for this one. We've got a field of 9 signed on. Another time, horse number 5 in your program, the 2-1 morning line favorite, Roman Dioro, the second choice at 3-1. JD, who's going first?
Go ahead and lead us off again, Andrew.
All right, so I'm not crazy about either of the 2 horses that I've mentioned here. The one that I'm taking a little bit of a stand against is the horse that I think will go off the favorite, and that's number 1, Roman Dioro, trained by Mark Casse. Hernandez rides, a horse with some credentials down in Florida. To me, it just seems like this is the horse that the public is supposed to bet, and it's not like I don't understand why. And if this was a 7.5 furlong race around 1 turn, like say on the outer turf course, maybe I'd be a little bit more inclined to play the horse. But I look at this horse's record. I see some good races at 5 furlongs. I see some good races at 6 furlongs. I see the 2-turn races, which granted were against stakes company. I see a 5th beaten 10 3/4. I see an 8th beaten 6 3/4. And then I look at the 1 race over that inner turf course, at least if I'm reading the past performances right, and please, for the love of God, I really hope I am. And I see 5th beaten 2 lengths going 5 furlongs, which is this horse's preferred distance of ground. I think Roman Dioro is very beatable here, and maybe the rail will just be too good, and maybe that'll be my undoing. But this is a favorite I think you try to beat if that horse does indeed take money. Now, Another Time has some back class, and it wouldn't stun me if that horse wound up winning. But I see off since September, and yeah, I've got to use the horse, but I'm by no means married to that one. I am going to go to the outside here. My top selection is actually number 7, A Fleet Catherine, who looks a lot better. If you draw a line through the Wonder Where, 1.25 miles is just far further than I think this one wants to go. Has been working very well for Kevin Attard. I think has some tactical speed and can sit a little bit closer to the pace. Stakes placed a horse that ran third in a $150,000 event when last seen back in November. I think has a big shot and presents some value at 6-1. And I will also use number 9, Fiduciary, who has one of my favorite angles in all of horse racing, one you're not going to see in the United States very often anymore. A European getting first-time Lasix. This is a horse that won twice overseas. The time form ratings were not bad. Was third in a competitive allowance event back in October when last seen. And we've talked about Josie Carroll. She can train. You look at that May 31st work, 5 furlongs and 59 flat. I think Fiduciary means business. I'll go 5, 7, and 9 in here. And if I was going to throw any of them out, it would be the shortest price of the trio.
Yeah, I'd say Josie Carroll can train. I mean, she's in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
She's got a couple good ones, yeah.
Yeah, just okay.
I'm not going on a limb here.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't stray very far from the favorites here, just because, you know what, I'm being a little bit cautious. Last year, I found that the outside posts, everything had to go really well for the horses to win. They needed the trip. They needed to make sure that the other speed went, unless they were fast enough to get to the lead. I still have a lot of questions with the inner turf course. So for myself, even though I took one that's sort of on the outside, because I really looked at the Josie Carroll horse and I thought, you know what, because the first time Lasix and all, but I'm going to give her a look. And if she beats me, then I'm okay with that. But I'm with you. I really like A Fleet Catherine. I think A Fleet Catherine is going to be the price play in here. But I did not leave out the Cassie, because I think the Cassie just has a little bit of an edge over the rest of these. And with Hernandez up, I think that he's really going to be tough. I like that she drew on the inside. I think she's just going to go as far as she can. And even though she's going longer than maybe the preferred 5 furlongs, I don't think it'll be an issue. I don't think it'll be an issue for her. So I kind of like that she's got that little bit of fitness and race. I think that's where a few of the others are really going to suffer, is the racing experience. Because don't forget, it's 7 months. Like, it's not a 3 months, it's a 7 months. So I've never had to really kind of look at that type of angle before. So I kind of went cautious more so on this one, just because I prefer horses that have had a few races in them. So that's kind of how the 5, yeah, you know, I don't think the 5 can be left out. I'm okay to have the chalk in here, or to have one of the favorites come in, because I think there's other price plays, you know, like if I end up getting a price in the last race, I'm okay to have even 3-1 to me. And I think you're right, though. I think a lot of people are going to try to beat the favorite. I don't think he's going to go as favorite as you think he's going to go. I think people are going to look elsewhere. So I think you'll get maybe a 4-1, possibly even 5-1 on the inside horse.
That'll be interesting. Now, I'm just going 5-7 here. The things I want to talk about with the Fleet Catherine is, you mentioned there was a lot of toughness for the outer, the outer posts had some tough times at Woodbine. The only horse that seemed to not be affected by that last year was A Fleet Catherine. Catherine's 2 wins at 7 furlongs, post position 12, post position 12. So one was 12 of 12, one was 12 of 14. And I think getting back to the distance, and you look at, she was definitely a bridesmaid a little bit last year, but you look at the competition. Curlin's Voyage, Mizzenbeau, Merveilleux. These are the
thing with her too is she going to progress from 3 to 4? That's the biggest question with her, right? Is she going to make that progression?
Yeah, so. And to me, maybe I should have let off by talking about Another Time. I think Another Time seems to be the only horse that wants to be on the lead here. If Another Time gets an easy win off the layoff, I think it's going to be tough for anybody to catch it. And obviously, we talked about horsemen and women finding races elsewhere. I mean, Barbara Minshall has been all over the place,
all over.
but kept this horse here in the barn close because it's one of her best. And I think another time kicks off the 5-year-old year and will take the lead in this race. And I think it could be that easy. Again, Romaduro, I'm curious. The mile races don't look great to me on paper. The 6 furlongs look okay. I don't know how this horse is going to run at 7 furlongs. I'm willing to watch this one from the sidelines, and I'm going to stick to 5-7, going too deep in the second leg of this late pick 4 as we move on to another maiden race, Andrew.
Yeah, a bunch of maiden races in this particular sequence. This a maiden optional event. Older fillies and mares going 7 furlongs over the synthetic main track. We've got a big field signed on here, and if it looks incomplete on this graphic, well, that's because it is. We've got 3 more coming up in here. Your morning line favorite is number 2, Ostracize. 3-1 on the morning line. JD, you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to have a great time doing here?
What is that?
I'm going to ostracize. Sheri, you knew where I was going, and I applaud you for that. Usually it takes us a little bit, but we corrupt our guests into some of these horrible jokes that you don't want to laugh at, but you wind up laughing. So victory is mine, and I will go into my ticket now because I am going too deep in here. I'm using horses 4 and 12. Horse number 12, Careless Heiress. Good luck saying that one 5 times fast. That one is my top selection. I'm not crazy about the outside post, but I do see that this horse has 3 races this year at Gulfstream Park, and that's huge. I just think she's been facing better horses than the ones that she'll line up against here. I like the fact that in each of her 3 races, she's shown some improvement this year. You look at the buyer numbers, you see 34, 54, 62. If she runs a 62, I think she wins this race. You get Hernandez for Atfield, and I think Atfield is set for a pretty big day. So that one is my top selection. And I will also use number 4, Gamble's Silver, who last time out ran 4th, beaten 5 lengths. We haven't seen that one since November, but first time Lasix off of this layoff. Another one that's been training pretty well. Don't think you can ignore her at that 5-1 morning line price. And as we've mentioned, Josie Carroll's won a lot of races for a reason. This, I think, an instance where you can play against Ostracize, the 3-1 morning line favorite. It's not like if Ostracize won, I'd be stunned. But I see a couple races at Belmont against maiden claiming groups, and I just don't think the maiden claiming ranks on the NYRA circuit for turf sprinters are all that deep. I'm not all that impressed by it. If she runs back to some of the races she ran at Fairgrounds earlier this year, maybe she wins, but I see those recent races at Belmont that she's probably supposed to finish better than she did. I see the races last year at Woodbine where, granted, she was running against Maiden Special Weight Company, but it's not like she was running all that much better than anybody else in here. From a wagering perspective, I just think this is another favorite you try to beat. 4-12 for me in leg number 3, race number 10 on the 11 race program.
And Sheri, you think this race is pretty simple as well?
I singled. Yeah. I love her. I think this is her race to lose. One of my favorite angles, actually, I like at the beginning of the meet is the turf horses coming back and running on the Poly or on the Tapeta. Sorry, Poly was the one we used to have. I find that sometimes they just find that extra step that they need. And Careless Heiress has run very well. She just had some bad racing luck too. She was stopped in the stretch a couple times, and I watched all her races as well. She was like pinballed around. And so she's really had some growing races, I think. And I honestly think that she's going to come back here. She's going to make that surface switch. And sometimes that's all they need, just to get that extra little oomph to get them to the finish line first. I think she's going to explode. I think she's going to just win this going away.
I am going a little deeper here. I'm going to go 4 deep, 2, 5, 8, and 12. And the horse I want to talk about is the 8 Sky of Dreams. Closed up the season last year at Woodbine with a tough second at $64,000 maiden. Same condition here. Was going a mile and a 16th that day. Cuts back to 7 furlongs. And really, I think that the thing I want to touch on here is Andrew Smith, the trainer, has been kind of well documented the up and down career of having a successful barn, going back, working in the standard bred world, working as an assistant for various trainers, seems to be making a go of it from what I'm hearing at the track again here with a small string of runners. Only had 2 starters in 2020, but one of the really, faces of that race course, even with a small string of horses. He's always been around and has had his successes and his tough times, but I think he's got a good chance here in this field. I think Sky Dreams, from a pedigree standpoint, the 7 Furlongs should hit this horse square on the nose by Dynamic Sky out of a Gotcha Gold mare Dreaming of Carmela. And I think really the last 2 races were better than a lot of the horses in this field. So I think the 8 gets a good look here at 8-1 on the morning line. And the other horse I want to touch on briefly is the 5 Orbaline, the obviously daughter of Orb. Just a really, really tough race on debut in June 13th. Obviously something went wrong afterwards, as we didn't see this horse come back to the meet. So a nice it'll be a 367-day layoff for this horse going into Saturday. But I think this horse, looking at the work tab, some things I like to see, a couple really quick works April 24th and May 15th, and then kind of backing the horse down. Got Justin Stein aboard, has a good shot here at a price. I don't think it's as easy as the favorites here. I'm going 4 deep, 2, 5, 8, and 12.
You know what I just realized, what I found interesting? All of this late pick 4 are fillies and mares.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm finding interesting the fact that if we go 8 with 5, 7 with 12, we're all live going into the last race. As far as I'm concerned, just give us one of those 2 combinations that you can play for 40 cents so far, remember, and we're good to go. We're good to go going into the last leg. Fillies and mares again, as we've mentioned, going 6.5 furlongs. This is a maiden claiming race with a significant wrinkle that I'll get to in my analysis. We've got a field of 13 runners signed on. Your guess is as good as mine with regard to which of these runners goes favored. Number 3, I really hope I'm saying this right, Moraes is the 3-1 morning line favorite. Super Jade, horse number 11, is 4-1. And one of my favorite angles comes into play here because you get a lot of barns taking a free shot. Do me a favor. What's the claiming price for the 3 here?
There isn't one, Andrew.
Nope, there isn't one. So I'm using that horse. What's the claiming price for the 6, Born to Be Good?
There isn't
one.
Yep. And what's the claiming price for the 10 Queen Beach, who is 20-1 on the morning line?
There isn't one.
So I stop at Queen Beach for a number of reasons. A, because that's the last of the 3 horses I'm using with this angle. And B, because 20-1 is way too big a price. You look at a couple of races this horse ran over the synthetic track last summer. In July and September, Queen Beach ran pretty well against a far better series of groups. She was 3rd in the debut, then 5th, beaten less than 2 lengths. They tried her with blinkers twice. Safe to assume that did not work at all. The blinkers come off here, and I think Queen Beach is very live if she can get back to that July-September form. Maybe she needs a little bit of pace, but at 20-1, I'm absolutely using that horse. If you're playing any sort of a contest, I think that's an excellent get-out horse because even if we don't get the 20-1, I struggle to think she'll be lower than 12, 13, 14-1. So there's some value there. I also do need to use Super Jade, horse number 11, taking a big drop in class here, which is actually a little bit concerning, but you look at Norman McKnight, very aggressive trainer. This is a barn that has no problem losing horses and running them aggressively in spots where he feels they can win. Hasn't shown a whole heck of a lot in Maiden Special Weight Company and the Maiden Optional ranks, but you get Hernandez aboard, and I feel as though if Super Jade ever wins, it's going to be in this spot. So big drop for that one. Need to respect the connections. Need to assume they know what they're doing. 3, 6, 10, and 11 for me to finish things off. I mentioned that it was under $20 for a 20-cent play. $19.20 for me before scratches. And that's one of the great things about Woodbine that I absolutely love. That 20-cent minimum doesn't necessarily work everywhere. You try to put that at an IRA track or a California track, it's not going to work. It works at Woodbine. huge fields, bunch of different surfaces, areas where you really want coverage. This is a good way to buy a lot of action for not a lot of money. And because most of the horse players out there will play for the 20-cent minimum, there's not as much of a disparity as you would think. I remember when Tepin won the Woodbine Mile, or as the locals call it, the Gator Pit Mile.
Yes.
The 20 Pit 4 paid about $100. And Tepin was odds on. That should tell you there is room for value here. Another way that you can play it is doing what Sheri likes to do, which is to play it not for 20 cents, but for 60 cents. And that's a good transition as any into your analysis here.
And the reason why I went 60 cents is because I did take a single here.
Right.
And there's been many times where I don't have a solid opinion in a race. So I do play for 20 cents and just throw in a bunch of long shots. And I've seen some astronomical tickets come in for that 20-cent bet. It's a lot of fun. And especially given this weekend where there's so many unknowns and there's so many horses running, you could really just play around and have, give yourself so many chances for really minimal cost.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get in the game and just have some fun and be able to, because that's one of the biggest things is we try to keep down our horse size just because, we want to keep our ticket as cheap. Well, this way you can add those bombs that, hey, they look good, but, if you're playing safe, then maybe you wouldn't necessarily include them. So, and until everybody gets a feel of what this meet is going to be, go for it. Just go for it, right? So, but I went similar to you. I took the 3 and the 6. I do think that they both are very, very live in here. And I also noticed that they didn't have a claiming tag on them. I expect both of those horses to actually pick up where they left off. I like that Patrick Husbands is riding what I think is going to go as the favorite in the 3, Marai. I think that's how it's pronounced. Well, Robert Gellert will tell us. I'm not very sure.
One of them's going to be right.
One of them has to be right. But, totally fits in here, has great numbers. To me, I think that's the one that's going to end up going favored. Born to Be Good had 2 solid second places to end her year. I think she's going to come back. She's been working very well. I think she's going to come back and run very well. I think the other thing to keep in mind is the horse that beat her last out is running in race 2. So if anybody's looking to use the 6, and I mean, obviously off 7 months, you never know if there's going to be, a flattering race. But at this level, any little tip helps. That's how I look at it. One thing I learned last year is to never leave Emma Jane out of the final race. She won so many of the last races last year that there's no way I'm going to leave her out anymore, especially if I'm playing a late pick 4, late pick, whatever. I am not leaving Emma out. And that's another thing that I think that everybody needs to take into consideration tomorrow. Emma's going to come out firing. She's ready to roll, and she is an aggressive jockey. She's going to show speed tomorrow. If she's got speed in the mounts, she's definitely one to pay attention to. But I'm just saying, last year she won so many of the last races. You really have to include her on your tickets. And the other one, yes,
I did the math on it. Are you interested in hearing this? This is nuts.
What? I left her out so much that Robert Geller was like, Sheri. I'm like, I know. Because she would end up going favored and I'd try to beat her. And she beat me every time.
In the last race of a card where she had a mount last year at Woodbine in the contracted meet, she won 27% of the time.
It's a very real thing.
Phenomenal.
He had that down to a science in New York for many years. He'd stick around, ride the last race of the day when Bailey and Velasquez and everybody else would take off early, and he'd wind up winning on some 4-1 or 5-1 shot. I remember this because my first big score as a kid was a horse named River Rush that he rode in the last race of a day at Saratoga. So that is a very real thing, and I know there are handicappers out there rolling their eyes wondering,
oh, for
how
sure,
can you possibly be doing this? That's why it's legitimate. It is a thing.
And Emma, she's one of the best jockeys on our circuit. She is so pumped and she's going to be ready to roll tomorrow. or Saturday. I honestly would keep your eye out. If you're watching earlier in the card, just watch and see. And, you know, you'll be able to kind of get a gauge as to who's really into it and who might be a little bit rusty, or, you know, because that's a thing too. But that's the one thing that I learned the most last year is Emma's going to be live on any mount that she has in the last race. So I'm going to use her as much as I possibly can. The other horse that I actually thought is the 12. And again, I'm not a big fan of the outside posts kind of going this distance. Justin Stein, he was a top rider last year, and I expect that he's going to find his form very quickly this year. I think that if the pace is hot, this guy's going to come running. This filly, I think she's very dangerous, and again, she's going to need the pace to kind of collapse in front of her. But for some reason, I don't know, 6-1 from that 12 outside post. To me, I think that there's just something there that I can't leave her out either. So those are the 4 that I'm going to use to close off my ticket. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll want to add a few others. I'm not really sure. But again, my ticket's only $21.60. So I kind of like that. And then you know what? I get maybe a little bit more money because I am playing a single.
Yeah, that's for sure. If you can capitalize on your strongest opinion, that's the name of the game, right? That's what the ticket police always tell us. And this
ticket police. Very rarely will I single in a field that big. But I just really, I mean, I'm basing my whole ticket based on her.
Mm-hmm. So. That's for sure. I hear you there. And if you're right, you stand to collect, because that could be a separator. She's 4-1 on the morning line, probably doesn't go off favored. And that's where I think you can make a little bit of money. JD, how are you going to finish out your ticket?
5, 6, and 8 for me, and really I do like the 8 a little bit, but the Emma Jane factor played a huge part in my decision making.
Good, so it's not just me then.
I'm gonna go on a Canadian nerd rant here in terms of racing, and I'm going to talk about the 5. She's a Stylish Cats. And I'm not going like the pedigree because, you know, it's an unraced mare, first foal that's hitting the race course. Bruno Chickadance. I mean, the works are very interesting. There's 2 bullets for Rodney Barrow. Now, this is Rodney's second year with the trainer's license, and he was an assistant to many people on the backside at Woodbine, but most recently to end the career of Lori Silvera, who had one of the most interesting training careers, I think, of anybody. Kingston, Jamaican born, ruled the roost in Jamaica, came over and was basically the king of Greenwood Raceway up until its closure, and really kept a string of runners alive and kept, you know, training until his sad eventual death in his late 80s. Led a really long life and was a very solid trainer, over 1,000 wins in the career. She's a Stylish Cats. There is some pedigree that says, okay, this horse wants the Tapeta, but the works are just they fall off the page here. 47 flat on May 15th for this level at this distance is flying over that course. So I'm taking a wait and see approach. This is a horse that definitely could finish first easy as a morning line 10-1 shot, or this horse could still be running while Robert Geller's giving out the parimutuel information at the end of the race. It's one of these things. I don't know. Other than that, you know, Born to Be Good's my top choice, the 6. Obviously has had a few close misses and, you know, 2 seconds, 2/3 over a 9 race career. But I do see some progression towards the end of last meet. Obviously hasn't fired fresh yet, but this is the lowest level of competition that this horse has fired against from a fresh standpoint. So we'll take a chance here with Born to Be Good on top as an 8-1 shot for me. So I'm going 6 with an asterisk because the 15 isn't also eligible, by 2, by 4, by 3, 20-cent base wager. That'll cost you $28.80 at the window, Andrew.
I'm very happy that you talked about She's a Stylish Cats, because if there is a scratch in any of my legs, that's the one that I'm going to throw in on the end, simply because of the reasons you mentioned. Maybe this horse needs a race. maybe this race is a little stronger for the level than most races of its ilk, because there are horses that have been dropped in or are being protected, and it's basically a maiden special weight race for them. But those works 10-1, a barn with an owner that runs in a lot of races and can be very aggressive. It wouldn't shock me if She's a Stylish Cats is a runner, and that would be the one that I'd throw in if, say, a horse in an earlier leg scratch. As mentioned, I've got 2 runners from 2 different barns in that first leg, the 2, 4, 5, and 8. Well, if one of those scratches, maybe I throw in the 5 on the end just to give myself a little bit of coverage to be able to finish that out and still come in at under $20. So my ticket's down there, $19.20 to start. You see Sheri's ticket, $21.60 for a 60-cent base, and JD's ticket, of course, $28.80. Take parts of our tickets you like, toss out the parts you don't, whatever. The important thing is get involved. These people have been busting their asses in the midst of circumstances that were always changing, circumstances by which nobody knew what the hell was going on. It's here. Woodbine is here. These people are the heart and soul of the thoroughbred industry in Canada. We are so excited to be able to show some love to the Woodbine thoroughbred product. It's always a great product. This year, opening day, especially special because I don't think any of us are ever going to take a day at the track for granted ever again, especially those that have had their lives impacted to the degree that the horsemen and horsewomen at Woodbine have. So to those that have stuck it out, kudos. Here's hoping this is the light at the end of the tunnel that we've been looking for. And I'm really looking forward to punching that ticket on Saturday at Woodbine. So on that note, it's a celebratory show. We're happy. I don't even have a negative final thought here. That's how celebratory the show is. You can see JD, just his face lit up. So, Sheri, you actually take the floor first here with your final thought. And for the uninitiated, this is the segment where we just riff and expound upon whatever the heck we want. So, by all means, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, first, I want to thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I love that you guys are paying so much attention to Woodbine, because it has been such a tough year for so many up here. And I know that they have been just waiting and waiting and waiting for this day to come. And there's been so many people that have lobbied everywhere and every channel that they could to try to get racing earlier. And the frustration is real when they see everything happening south of the border, and we're just working and working and working. And you know, it's been such a hard time for so many people. And I'm so glad they're all warriors. They're all champions. They went in, they looked after their horses. They're true warriors. And I have so much respect for them for giving everything that they have. And they literally have. They have given everything to be able to compete starting this weekend. And I just wish everybody, all the trainers, owners, hot walkers, grooms, everybody, the most success this meet. And I really believe it's going to be one of the best meets that we end up having. And I think it's going to be so much appreciated by so many more people now. And I'm hoping that when, you know, we can get out in the stands and watch, and everyone's going to appreciate the beauty, because we didn't get to have it for so long. And, you know, just support these people. It's their livelihoods. It's their whole world. So, you know, I'm blessed in a way that I get to be close to a lot of people. And I'm really hoping that this just brings everybody closer together. Like I said, the standard bred and the quarter horse racing, like everybody just needs to unite, be strong, and let's just give the best product that we can and have fun and enjoy the racing. I think it's going to be a spectacular year. We have so much to look forward to. Plate, Oaks, Breeders' Cup, win and you're in. Like there's going to be so much phenomenal racing ahead. And I think that we should all just embrace it and be happy that we made it to this point, because it was a long road. So kudos to everybody.
Indeed. That's for darn sure. JD, do you want me to close it out? You want to go? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go and just say we've talked a lot about, and Sheri's mentioned as well, the standard bred. So Mohawk is opening Friday night. We're taping on Thursday night, and they're running 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, first post at Mohawk. Support them. And obviously, we're thankful that Woodbine is getting underway, and thankful to everybody, because Canadian racing means a lot to me. It's the main circuit that I pay attention to, along with, obviously, you guys who watch the show know Australia is the other thing that I follow very closely. So Woodbine racing again kind of opens back up, and it's been tough, talking to my friends that work on the backside at Woodbine, and talking to friends in the journalistic side of things. It's been tough for everybody involved. Just in terms of, even to the extent of, in some cases, making ends meet while waiting to run, because of, as Sheri mentioned earlier, the truncated end of the 2020 meet and this delay to start the 2021 meet. So I'm grateful that we're finally in a position to have Woodbine running, and I wanted to make sure Sheri, whose friendship means the world to me, was on this show for this. So I appreciate you coming on. It means a lot.
Thanks again for having me.
And everybody, go on Twitter and follow her, if not only for Sheri's jokes.
I do plays of the day for Woodbine, so if anybody ever wants to, and usually they're a price play. I try to find the one price play on the card that I like. So if anybody's looking for something, a price that they maybe want to add into their ticket, you can just go on the Handicappers webpage. I'm there. I'll have a play every day. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's three. Depends how I feel that day, but there's always something.
Awesome. That's absolutely fantastic. And we are thrilled to have Woodbine back. My final thought focuses on something else that we're going to be thrilled to have back coming up just next week. My adopted home track, the Alameda County Fair in Pleasanton, California.
Oh.
Their opening day a week from tomorrow, June 18th. We will be joined by the new track announcer at CARF, that, of course, being Craig Braddock, a guy this guy knows very well from his time at Turf Paradise. Craig has been all over the world. We're excited to have him, and we're excited to have Pleasanton back. Me especially, I will be doing a lot of writing for CARF this coming Pleasanton meet. I will also, knock on wood, knock on wood, I will be on track hosting a couple of handicapping seminars throughout the meet. Those are some of the days that I look forward to the most out of the entire year. Really, really excited. I'll be doing those with Dennis Miller on a couple of Saturdays during the meet. And again, being able to deal with people at the track, being able to talk horses, being able to just go through a card at the apron of a track, being able to do that and enjoy that kind of camaraderie. I think we all took that for granted. If we were to go back in time and tell the versions of ourselves from mid-2019 that something like this was going to happen, maybe the 2019 versions of ourselves wouldn't have outright said we were crazy. They damn sure would have thought it. Now, it's a situation where, thankfully, we're getting things back. I don't want to say back to normal or a new normal or anything like that, but just something that somewhat resembles the things that we love the most and the things that we, in some cases, desperately missed last year. So really excited to have Woodbine back, really excited to have Pleasanton back. And if you're a fan of the Northern California Fair Circuit, you're not going to want to miss the episode that we're putting up next week. So go on down and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the show. This is a celebration of the thoroughbred industry. We're so happy to have Woodbine back. And Sheri, we were so, so happy to have you. One more time, where can people follow you? Where can people see what you put out? Publicize anything that you want.
You can find me on the Woodbine website. They have a handicappers section. If you click on the tab, there's about 8 of us on there. There's 4 that regularly handicap, and then there's a couple of us Twitter persona that put out our picks. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Sheri@GoPhilly. I do more than Woodbine too, but Woodbine is my main home. So
everybody's got their home tracks.
Yeah, they're my home, and I'm so excited for them to be back. I'm going to play every card.
1 month, people. 1 month. JD's already dreading it.
And you can follow Andrew on Instagram at 128 winners. And
Yep. Darn straight. Yep. The 4-time reigning, defending, undisputed handicapping champion of the Pink Sheet in Saratoga, or as this guy would call it, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to end it there because there's no possible way I could top that. Thank you so much for stopping.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Go follow her on social media, on the Woodbine website. I'm Andrew Champagne for Sheri Riddoch, for JD Fox. Thank you so much for watching Champagne and JD. JD, hit him with the catchphrase, will you?
Everybody be safe out there and stay off the beaches.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.